I would look at the roster of who was on the label that I was working for, and B.B. King was on the label. And I started hounding everybody. I want to produce B.B. King, because I knew the blues, you know, and I knew I could do, and I had a good idea about putting young, energetic R&B musicians behind him as opposed to his road band, which is playing the same thing every night all the time, you know. So I kept bugging him. I want to produce B.B. King. I want to produce B.B. King. You can't produce B.B. King. Well, why not? Well, you're too young and you're too white. I said, there's nothing I can do about either one of those, the whiteness or the age thing. So I kept bugging him, and after a while, the head of the label said, all right, well, BB's coming to town in a couple of weeks, and we'll set up a meeting with you and him, and if he agrees to it, then we'll let you do it. So I sat down with him in his hotel room, and I pitched my idea to him, and he said, well, that's intriguing, I like that idea, but I don't want to do the whole album that way, because he didn't want to commit, you know, fully to this experiment with this young white kid. And so we did half of it at the Village Gate live with his band, and then shortly after that I took him in with some musicians that I'd hired, and he loved it. And he had, my first hit record ever was a cut off that we did with my band called Why I Sing the Blues. And that was like a top 10 R&B record, and it finally got on the pop charts. It only made it to like 80 or something like that. But nonetheless, that was BB's first visit to the pop charts. So it came time for another album like 6, 8 months later. And he said, let's do it all your way. And I said, you bet. And what came out of that was The Thrill Is Gone. So that put him out of the Chitlin circuit and into the big room in Vegas. And it established me as a producer. So after that, having success, I went to the powers that be and said, I want to sign a rock band. So I looked around and did some scouting, and through a friend of a friend that was in Cleveland, got turned on to the James Gang, signed them, and had hits with them. So I'm having R&B hits and pop hits with B.B. King. And at the time, it was the underground FM radio situation in 68, 69. And the James Gang were all over that, you know. So it was like having success in two different areas. And that basically established my credentials.
And how old were you at the time you had the success with B.B. King and James Gang?
I was about 25. About 25, 26 years old. So that was pretty early.
And did you ever say to yourself, okay, this is it. I hope I didn't bite off more than I can chew?
No, not really.
Ready to go?
I was pretty confident little punk.